Good morning. Welcome to math video number 3. Today we're going to be focusing on estimating. If you notice here that the SOL 4.4a says the student will estimate sums, differences, products, and quotients of whole numbers. And then it also says for 4.4b that the student will add, subtract, and multiply whole numbers. So we're going to be talking about all of this. Now if you notice on this one, it does say that you're going to need to know how to estimate, but it gives you a lot more details. You're going to have to know how to estimate problems that are asking you to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Okay, so we're going to look at just a couple examples of those, and then some really important terminology that will help you. So in math video number 2, we started touching on estimating. And so just so you know, that estimating is really just making a very good guess or a rough calculation of an answer when an exact answer is not necessary. So you want to find numbers that are what K-12 calls them as friendly, or just numbers that are easier to add and subtract. So kind of round up to the next 5 or 10 or 25, 50, 100. It's not as exact as rounding unless they tell you to estimate to a particular place value. There's really more than one right way to do this. So just try to make sure that your estimation makes sense. So after you make your estimation, think about it a little bit and really decide, is that a good estimation of what they're asking me? So some clue words in estimating, when you're reading a story problem, if they ask you about how many, or around how many, or approximately how many, those are your friends, okay? Remember those words. Those are your clues that you're going to be estimating, and you don't have to add every single little number, okay? So that's when you know you're going to want to estimate, maybe round to the biggest number that's there, or round to a friendly number. And another really good strategy is to look, because a lot of times they'll give you answer choices. And if you notice that all of your answer choices are rounded to the nearest 1,000, then go ahead and just round and estimate to the nearest 1,000. Okay, so let's look at our example. It says Anna bought 71 bags of candy. There were 893 pieces of candy in each bag. About how many pieces of candy did Anna buy? Okay, right away we saw some important words. Right here, about how many pieces of candy did Anna buy? So we already know we're going to estimate. Now we need to decide, are we going to be subtracting these numbers? I see the two numbers, 71 and 893. What are we doing with these numbers? So you have to be kind of an investigator and really think about the question, think about the story problem. This can be very tricky for a lot of students. And I do have a video that I created last year for our students. And it was used in several different grade levels. So if this is something that you struggle with, or learning coaches, if this is something that you know your students struggle with, being able to figure out which operation to use. If they don't know, am I supposed to add here? Am I supposed to multiply? Am I dividing? I don't know. If they have a hard time with that, just go ahead and send me a K-mail, and I will send out that video to you. It's just a quick little video that kind of helps students figure out which operation to use. So in this one, a key word that I'm looking at is the word each. So Anna bought 71 bags of candy, which, my goodness, Anna, that's a lot of candy. 71 bags. Let's pretend she's having a great big party for a lot of friends. So she has 71 bags of these candies, and in each bag, there's 893. Okay, so that tells me that we're going to be multiplying. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're gonna take these two numbers, 71 and 893. Now to multiply these two numbers, that would take a lot of work because there's a lot of numbers there. But if you are estimating and round, then just go ahead and round to the biggest number that is there. So I'm going to round 71. I'm going to look right next door. 4 or less, just ignore. So I'm going to keep that 7 the same. I'm going to round this one to, you know what, I'm going to change my mind there. I'm going to round it to the same place value as that I round the 71. I'm going to just round both of them to the nearest 10. Okay, so I'm going to round this 9, look right next door, 4 or less, just ignore. So I'm going to keep that 9 the same. So then it's going to be 890. Okay, so it makes it a little bit easier to work with. Now I'm going to show you a little trick here. When you're multiplying with zeros, you can kind of just temporarily, I'm going to draw a little box over them. You can just kind of ignore your zeros temporarily. And we're just going to multiply these two. So 9 times 7 is 63. 7 times 8 is 56. Plus 6 is 62. Okay, and now I'm going to look at the zeros. How many did I have? I had 2 zeros. I'm going to tack them on to the end. It's kind of the nice thing about multiplying with lots of zeros because you can make it quick. So 62,300. Okay, so we have approximately, that is a lot of candy. All right, so this is another phrase that you may have seen in the Math Red course called front-end estimation, and that's basically what I just did. So if you have some numbers, let's pretend you just had these two numbers that are in the thousands, then I would recommend rounding to the thousand. But if you also have a number that is like 243, and you're rounding that one to the hundreds, I would recommend rounding all three numbers to the hundreds, because that just makes sense to me. So I'm going to look right next door, 6, 5 or higher. We're going to add one more, so that 3 becomes a 4. We're going to look right next door, 4 or less, just ignore. So we're going to keep that 2 the same. Look right next door, 5 or higher. Going to add 1, so that 1 is going to become a 2. And doesn't this make it much easier when we get rid of a lot of those numbers? So estimation really is your friend because it makes your job as a mathematician go a lot faster. Okay, so the only tricky part is knowing, okay, what place value to round to. So just take those suggestions to heart and just take a peek at the answer choices that they're offering you. In real life, there's no right or wrong answer. You just estimate. And so there's lots of different ways to estimate, lots of different answers. But if you're on a test, you want to just take a look at your multiple choice options there and see if they've given you a particular place value that makes the most sense. And if you need more help with estimating, this is probably one of my favorite websites for the students to practice on. You do have to pay for a membership, but you can practice 20 questions a day for free. And it's really good. So when you first log on to this website, it's just www.ixl.com. And I'll send this to you guys in a K-mail. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, they have all the different states. So you can pick Virginia, and you can practice the standards for Virginia. And so there is one on there where like what I just showed you. Students will estimate sums, differences, products, and quotients. So you can practice estimating, but you can also practice reading story problems and really trying to figure out which operation you're supposed to use. So I highly recommend that website. It's really fantastic. And like I said, you can answer 20 questions a day for free, so you might as well. Okay, so I'm going to give you your first show what you know question, and we're going to have a total of four questions today. This is number 1. So you're going to write this question down, and you're going to put this on your survey. So write this question down on a piece of paper. I had a few students wonder when they got to the survey, wait, what am I supposed to write? This is one of them. You're going to go ahead, solve this problem, write your answer down, put it on the survey. Okay? So go ahead and pause the recording down here at the bottom. You'll see a pause button, and then press play when you're done. Okay, so some important vocabulary to know, and this was surprisingly one of the things that the students struggled with a lot on the SOL. The students would just freeze. They would see numbers and it would say, what is the quotient of these numbers? And they were just really taken back, and they didn't really know how to answer it because they didn't know what these vocabulary words meant. So these are some words that you're really going to want to know. So the first one is sum, the second one is difference, the third one is product, and the fourth one is quotient. Okay, so when you are adding numbers, your answer is called the sum. So if they ever ask you, what is the sum of these two numbers, that's your clue that you're going to add. Okay, so definitely you're going to want to know that word. When they say, what's the difference between these two numbers, that's your clue you're going to subtract. And if they say, what is the product? That is your clue that you're going to be multiplying, because that's your answer. When you multiply two numbers, your answer is the product. Okay, and then this is another word. We're going to learn about this one later in the school year. And some of you may be already in that unit where you're learning about factors. And factors are just two numbers that when multiplied together equal a product. So those are the two numbers that you're multiplying. And then when you divide, the answer is called the quotient. So you don't usually use that in everyday language, but you're definitely going to want to know that for 4th grade math. Okay? So, and there's the dividend and the divisor too. So all these fancy words. So we're going to definitely practice with that. In our interactive math notebook today, you're going to have an activity for that. So as a 4th grader, you're going to need to be able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. And you're going to want to be able to consistently get the correct answer. And the only way that you're going to be able to consistently get the correct answer is to practice. Unfortunately, there's no magic answer. It is practicing, because the more you practice, then you're going to have a more permanent pattern of performance. So practice doesn't make perfect, but practice makes a permanent pattern of performance. Say that 20 times really fast. And it's true. The more you practice, the more skilled you become, and the less mistakes you're going to make. So if you are adding numbers and you're getting it wrong and you're like, oh, I know how to add. You know, you get so frustrated. Yes, I got that wrong, but I know how to add. I know how to subtract. Okay, but people want to know that you know how to get the correct answer. So they want to be able to trust you to get it correct. When you're out in the workplace, if you're constantly getting things wrong, they're not going to think, oh well, you know how to add. No, they want to see that you're proficient. Okay, so this is where that daily practice is going to come in. And that's where you can get right on IXL. You can get on Math Magician. lots of different websites out there where you can just get daily practice with adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing. Okay, so obviously you've all learned how to add, subtract, and a little bit of multiplication already. So the important pieces are when you have to carry numbers, regroup, borrow, all of those fancy words. You want to make sure you're doing that correctly. So let's just go through these. I'm sure you can follow right along. 3 plus 1 would be 4. 4 plus 7 is 11. And you would never say this, and I think we all know that. And by this point, you know that you have to carry your 1 because this 11, you can't have 2 digits in one place value. So you have to bump it over here. And then you just add that. 1 plus 8 plus 2 would be 11. Okay? And same thing. It's the same process no matter how big the numbers get. So you just have to take one place value at a time. 5 plus 3, 7 plus 8, 15. Well, I can't put that 1 there. I'm going to put it next door. 1 plus 2 plus 4. So some kids, when they get to big numbers like this, they freeze up because they think suddenly it's going to be harder, but it's really the same exact thing. Just take one step at a time. 7 plus 1, 5 plus 9, and then 1 plus 3. And then eventually you get to your answer. Now, I think the trickiest part sometimes can be lining them up. So if they're given to you horizontally, being able to correctly line them up vertically is a really important skill. And the best way that I have found is to practice on graph paper. When you have graph paper, it's easier to just line everything up nice and neatly so you don't make any mistakes. So an example of a mistake, and I've seen kids of all grades just rush it. Should we ever do this? No, 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 no. It needs to be lined up all the way to the edge. Okay, so you want to definitely make sure that you're lining the ones, the tens, the hundreds, and then you don't put those in the wrong place value because then it messes all your answer up. So 0 plus 1, 3 plus 8, 7 plus 1, and then you find your answer. Now there's a bunch of answers here with lots of zeros and ones, so it's easy to, even though I got the correct answer here, it's easier to pick the incorrect answer over here if I go too quickly. So just double check. This one at first looked like it could be right. Oh, nope, nope. So just take that extra couple seconds to guarantee that you chose the right answer. Same thing is true for subtraction. Kids don't line them up correctly, and then therefore they get the answer wrong, or they aren't neat when they're writing. Yeah, give me a smile if you write sloppy sometimes. I think we all do that. So we just got to take that extra time to write nice and neatly if we can. It really does help. Now here's another mistake, general mistake that I see a lot of kids make. It's just quick subtraction. I saw my daughter do that, my 4th grade daughter, just on her homework. She was in a hurry because she wanted to go play. So she's trying to do her homework quickly, and here she's at a problem like this. She, in her mind, says 3 minus 7, 4. Well, if you really think about it, if I had 3 cookies, could I give you 7? No, you can't do that. So you have to borrow from your neighbor. And then you have 13. Now you can give me 7 cookies, and then you'd have 6 left over. It's 4 minus 2. Now here we go again. If this number is smaller on top, you have to stop and think about it. If I had 1 cookie, could I give you 2? No. So we're going to borrow from our neighbor again. So it's just that carefulness when you're doing your math. Take the time to really pay attention to what you're doing, and you'll be more and more correct each time. Okay, so now we're going to dig a little deeper into multiplication. I'm going to show you some methods, and really, as long as you're getting the correct answer, that's what's important. If you want to do the traditional method, which I think probably all of your parents feel the most comfortable with the traditional method because that's the way we were raised, they didn't really teach us a lot of different methods when we were little. We were taught one way, you do it this way, or you get it wrong. But now they really want you to try to think outside the box and understand math a little bit better, so they're trying to give you more than one way to solve it. So let me just show you a couple different methods. You pick which one works consistently for you to get the correct answer. And then I'm going to show you one that's just kind of interesting and fun, not that I would recommend doing it on a regular basis. Okay, so let's say here that we were multiplying 97, and I showed you this a little bit earlier on that other problem. Let's say 97 times 8. So what you want to do, now this is where knowing your math facts come in real handy because it makes it go a lot faster. So if you don't have your math facts, your basic math facts from 0 to 12 memorized, you should be practicing those every single day. Probably 5 to 10 minutes on your flashcards every single day until those are down pat. That's what my daughter's doing as well. She has, you know, like the 1s, the 0s, the 11s, the 10s memorized. The easy ones. But, you know, the 8s, the 6s, those get, you know, kind of fuzzy in her brain. So we're practicing those every day. So you guys can practice along with us at your house. Okay, so when you are multiplying bigger numbers, you want to multiply the 1s times the 1s, which is 56. And then just like in adding and subtracting, you don't want to put the 5 here. You would still do the same exact thing and put it up here in the 10s. And then you're going to multiply the 1s times the 10s. So 8 times 9 would be 72. And then you have this little 5 up here, and you're just going to add that to the 72. So 72 plus 5 would be 77. Okay? So that takes practice and just lots of neatness, and you'll be able to do that correctly, consistently too. Now, a partial product, I'm sure you saw this in, if you are to that unit already in your math book, they talked about this too. Now, this is one method that I did not ever use until I was in college. So they would say multiply the 1s, so 9 times 3 is 27. And then you're going to multiply 3 times this 4, but this 4 really is 4 10s, right? So it's the same as 40. So you would say 3 times 40, which would be 120. And then you just add those two. So that also takes some getting used to, but it works consistently. If you like that, go for it. It does work. So let me try 2 digits times 2 digits on this one. Let's say 26 times 41. So we're going to do 1s times 1, the 1 times the 1, 1 times 6, and then 1 times this 2, which is 2 10s, or 20. 1 times 20, 20 is 20. 4 would be 40, because this right here is a 4 10s, so 40 times 6 would be 240. And 40 times 20 would be 800. And I'm out of space here, but then you would just add those up. So it's really up to you if you like that method or if you like the traditional methods. Now this is a method that I was just introduced to probably about 6 years ago. I had a student from who was actually raised in a different country. She was a missionary, and so she was raised, I can't remember what country, like Japan or China or something like that. And so she was new to our country, even though her parents were Americans. And so she was working with me in class, and I asked her to multiply for me, and she started making these crazy boxes. And I thought, oh no, this poor little girl doesn't know how to multiply. But boy, was I wrong. She knew exactly what she was doing, and she taught me something. So I'm going to use the same numbers there, 49 times 3, just like we did before. What you do, if it's 2 digits, then you have these 2 boxes. So 49, and you basically, it's pretty easy to create. Let me show you what you're doing here. You're just making 2 boxes here for 4 and 9. And then since I'm multiplying 3, you just need 1 row of boxes. And then you're basically putting a diagonal line like that. That's all you're doing. Okay, and so what you would do is here you would say 9 times 3. And this side of the box is your 1s. This side of the box is the 10s. Same here, 1s, 10s. So you would say 9 times 3 is 27. And then 4 times 3, right here, 4 times 3 is 12. So you do the same thing, your 10s and your 1s. And then you just go straight down these diagonal lines and add. Okay? So this would be 7, this is 4, and this is 1. And so your answer would be 147. So for all you learning coaches that have never seen this before, I'll show you. 12, 14. It works the same way. Isn't that pretty cool? So if you had 2 digits times 2 digits, let's say 49 again, and let's say 31 this time. And it works the same exact way. So 9 times 3, 27. 4 times 3 is 12. Then you come down here to this 1. 1 times 9. So 1 times 9 is 9, so you don't have any 10s, so you're going to put a 0 there. 1, trying to use my pointer so you can follow me. 1 times 4 now is 4. 0 10s and 4 1s. And then you do the same thing. You just go right down those diagonal lines and add. So we have 9 here, and here we have 7 times 4, which is 11. So I'm going to do the same thing I would do, and I would just add, carry my 1. So 2 plus 2 plus 1 is 5, and then 1. So my answer would be 1,519. Pretty cool, huh? And it works consistently. So that's pretty awesome. Now this is a method that's pretty amazing that it works. I've seen it called the Chinese method. I've also seen it called the Japanese method, so I'm not sure who gets the credit for it, but it's pretty fantastic. But it really, really gets messy and complicated if the digits are large. So I would only do it for fun or if you have small digits. So let's say I'm going to use small digits here. Let's say I have 21 times 13. I showed this to the 3rd graders last year, so you might remember this if you were in my class. So 21, we're going to make 2 lines to represent the 20, 1 line to represent the 1, Now we're going to go the other way. 1 line to represent the 1, and then 3 lines to represent that 3. So if you lost me what I was doing here, this is like 21, and this is like 13. Okay? And then we're going to circle. We have this section here, this middle section here. Oops. I'm running out of space with my, try that again. And then this section here. And then you basically count the intersections. So let me try to use a color that you can see real good. So here we have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3. And so that is our answer. 2, 7, 3. Your answer would be 273. And it works. It works with the large digits. It's just really complicated when you have all those lines. But it's pretty cool. Mathematics is really, really cool. So it is something that's very consistent, and you can always rely on it to be accurate. It's not the same as, reading and science where there's theories and objectivity, everybody has their own opinions. No, math is just math. So it's pretty amazing when you see how it works. It's pretty fun. All right, so I just threw that in there. I wouldn't recommend doing it, but definitely try it. It's pretty fun. You can use small digits and then compare it, use a calculator or something and see if you got it right. It's pretty fun. All right. Well, here are your last 3 show what you know. I would like you to find the sum, if you remember what that means, find the difference, and find the product. Now we're going to be working on finding the quotient of things in our next video, all about division. So for now we're just going to practice adding, subtracting, and multiplying, and you may use whatever multiplying method that you would like. Just make sure you get it correct. Okay, and then definitely write down your answer for number 2, number 3, number 4 for the survey at the end. Go ahead and press pause and press play when you're done.